This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Great to have you with us on this Monday edition of VSiN By The Books, hour number 2 underway. Jensen Lewis, Grace Remington with us live from Nashville, and for Dave Ross off this week for vacation. A ton to get into if you're just joining us. A couple of game 7s from yesterday to recap. Also setting up round 2 games tonight in both the NBA and the NHL. We'll have the Daily Diamond coming up this segment, as well as a historic performance by Scottie Scheffler at the Byron Nelson. My goodness gracious. Historic is one way to say it. When we give you the numbers and the breakdown, it's going to knock your socks off. So without further ado, let's jump right into our highlights and headlines.
Help your bottom line with today's highlights and headlines.
Okay, Grace, round number 2 underway in the NBA postseason. It was the Indiana Pacers and Cleveland Cavaliers from Rocket Arena, and the Cavaliers a little bit more time off after the sweep of the Miami Heat in round 1, and maybe showing a little ill effects there as the Indiana Pacers were able to steal game 1 there in Cleveland. A real outstanding performance, not only from the Pacers backcourt, but overall the transition offense, a huge beneficiary of seeing the Cavaliers maybe a step or two behind, Grace, from having that time off. How about 19 of 36? Indiana was from 3-point range and really forcing Cleveland to play catch up all night long. Pacers end up getting it done in this game, and they take game 1, 121 to 112.
I know this was, kind of in line with the rest of the weekend in it being a shocking result. Cavs go into this one an 8.5-point home favorite after just slaughtering the Heat in their round 1 series. They outscored them by over 31 points per 100 possessions in non-garbage time. They won the 4 games by a combined 122 points, which was the most ever for a playoff series. And considering the regular season they had, I just thought they were going to come into game 1 and smoke the Pacers, but not so fast. I mean, Pacers kind of felt like they were in control from start to finish here. It was close later in the game, but all 5 Indy starters scored in double figures. I did think one matchup I had my eye on was how the Cavs defended Pascal Siakam, because in the 3 regular season games against him, they had held him to 17 points a game and just over 38% shooting from the floor. Well, his numbers are pretty similar last night. 17 points, 6 for 15 shooting, which are well below his season averages. But the rest of the team stepped up. And I think it's even more impressive, too, is that the Pacers had 17 turnovers to the Cavs 8, and they gave up 22 points off turnovers, and they still won despite all those mistakes. So what is this series going to look like when they have a clean game? Either way, really fun one last night.
Yeah, definitely. Now Cavaliers series price down to minus 210. The Pacers plus $1.70 on the series price. So they steal game 1. A big reason why 6 players scoring in double figures, including 23 points from Andrew Nembhard. Phenomenal individual performance in his own right. You mentioned Pascal Siakam. He was critical. How about Miles Turner, too, on the glass? He and Evan Mobley kind of going back and forth there. But 11 critical rebounds from Miles Turner. Tyrese Halliburton saw the great Wes Reynolds tweet this, of course, a huge Indiana native and backer there. How about 13 assists to 1 turnover for Tyrese Halliburton last night? As you see the numbers here for the exact series price. And now it feels like a bit of a must win here, Grace, as we look at potentially game 2. Cavaliers tomorrow night, 9.5-point favorite. So jumping up just a bit here, and probably the sense of urgency on the Cleveland side. 229.5 is that total, and we'll see if Indiana can steal both and then be able to go back to Indianapolis with a commanding 2-0 series lead. Also getting underway tonight, we have the Knicks and the Celtics. We have the Nuggets and the Thunder. Grace, this has kind of been a one-sided series, if you will, in the last handful of seasons for the Celtics and the Knicks. This is kind of what we anticipated coming in. Celtics minus $8 on the series price. The Knicks plus 550 headed into game 1 tonight. Anxious to see what New York Knicks team kind of shows up, because we've seen games in which, hey, they're out in force. They had that defense rolling. And then we've also seen Celtics teams that just come out and are burying threes left and right to start games as well.
Right. Well, you said it's been a lopsided series, and that's true. You can just look at the 4 games these teams played this year. The Celtics had an offensive rating of 130.2 in those 4 games. The best offensive rating in the NBA by any team this season was the Cavs. That rating was 121. So Boston against the Knicks is 10 points higher than the best offense in the association this year. And Jason Tatum especially shines in those meetings. In those 4 games, he averaged 33.5 points per game, up from his season average of 26.8. He went 53.5% shooting from the floor, up from his season number of 45.5. So this is a great matchup for him. I don't really doubt that the Celtics will win this series, but when it comes to a betting angle, like I said earlier, I kind of think this is a spot where you'd want to pick your spots, because the Knicks are a team that fights. They have some grit to them. They don't give up. So maybe look for some double-digit spread. Hopefully we get some. The Celtics were 20-26 against the spread as double-digit favorites this season, but a lot of those covers came against the Wizards and the Hornets. So that cover record should actually be a lot worse than it shows. So if we get tonight we're close. They're a 9-point favorite, but once we cross 10, maybe that's where you want to start backing the Knicks.
Yeah, anxious to see where this goes. 47% of the bets, Grace, right now on the Knicks +9, but 62% of the handle. So interesting differential right there. The spread 213, the total is at 213 for VSiN Pro subscribers. I did jump on the under 213 yesterday, and that remains where it is on DraftKings, down to 212.5 at Circa. Hey, by the way, if you want to know where all the real money is going, we've got splits. We've got betting splits coming straight from Circa and DraftKings, giving you insight into where the sharp action is landing. Circa, always known for taking those big bets from professional bettors. DraftKings a bit more on a broader market perspective, but that means you're getting the real action, not just the public money and those kinds of wagers that will move those lines. So see the percentage of bets versus percentage of handle on every game across every major sport, helping you make smarter, more informed bets. Get VSiN's exclusive betting splits for as little as $9.99 for your first month at vsin.com/subscribe. The betting splits, Grace, I tell Dave every day, it is something that I use always, and even as I did yesterday, just trying to jump in on where this total is. So again, get those exclusive betting splits for as little as $9.99 for your first month. Get started now. vsin.com/subscribe. So much great information, something we use daily here on VSiN by the Books. Okay, Grace, game 2, or at least the second game tonight will be the first game of round 2 for the Nuggets and the Thunder. Right now, Thunder 9.5-point favorites at DraftKings, total of 225.5. You mentioned it before in hour number 1. I think it bears repeating. The amount of energy expended by the Nuggets through a grueling 7-game series and the amount of time that the Thunder have had off. Could you lean towards perhaps a first quarter spread here for the Thunder, just knowing they might be able to take advantage of a Nugget team that might be needing to try and get their sea legs about them? It just feels like the Thunder, from a defensive perspective, will have those rested legs, be able to kind of impose their will. Any feeling on if a first quarter spread might be something you'd be interested in?
I'm a big fan of quick bets, first half, first period, first quarter. So I love that angle. That's actually an angle I didn't think of here, and I'm looking at it here. OKC -3. So that's one possession in the first quarter. Yeah, I could see that happening, considering the Nuggets had just 2 days of rest after a 7-game series. The Thunder have not played in an entire week. So it's really just about, do you believe in rest? Do you believe in rust? But with the star power that the Nuggets, or that the Thunder have here, and the depth, I would think they get off to a fast start. So I like that.
I think it's just one of those things as we look forward, and also maybe something we tackle tomorrow when we look at that Warriors and that Timberwolves series, because again, don't know if the NBA was thinking a little bit into the future, that if that series lined up the way that they did, and the time of that game, Grace, yesterday, I was kind of surprised myself to see Game 7 be that late, knowing that the winner of that series, if it were Golden State, would have to travel to Minnesota. Of course, if Houston won, they would have remained at home there. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, Timberwolves 6-point favorite tomorrow against the Warriors. Thunder right now 9.5-point favorite at DraftKings. I did jump on them. If you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, I did jump on them at -9 yesterday. Grace, 44% of the bets, 72% of the handle on the Thunder spread right now. Again, that total remaining at 225.5. Could we see the Thunder perhaps just blow the doors off the Nuggets here, considering that it is one of those quick turnarounds for the Nuggets? They do have to travel from Denver. Not too long of a flight there, but still, fact remains, long series for them, the Thunder with a boatload of rest.
I think you could. The question for me about the Nuggets is how good is their defense? Because the Clippers were not able to take advantage of a defense that ranks anywhere from average to below average. We saw a little boost in the couple weeks after Mike Malone's firing and David Edelman took over. But when you look at it over the course from April 8th to now, it only ranks 15th. So, and before Malone's firing, it had ranked 19th. So it really turned out to be not that much of a boost. One thing I did find interesting, though, when I was looking at the regular season series, the Thunder have been an underdog just 3 times all season. But one of those was to the Nuggets. It was opening night, so quite a long time ago, and they ended up winning as an outright 2-point dog. But maybe it'll be a little closer than we think.
Yeah, we shall see. So again, round 2 underway last night with Pacers and Cavaliers. We get 2 more round 2 games tonight with the Knicks and the Celtics and the Nuggets and the Thunder. We also get an abbreviated slate of Major League Baseball, but we always give you a full slate of the Daily Diamond. That is up next here on VSiN By The Books.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
Hey, Cinco de Mayo edition of VSiN By The Books. Jensen Lewis alongside Grace Remington, live from Nashville. Grace, we were surmising that it is 5 o'clock somewhere. Some people might be tipping the tequila back already listening to us. We do appreciate that. What we will tip back right now is a segment we always do every single day here on VSiN By The Books. That is none other than the Daily Diamond. All right, Grace, I chided Cody Decker a little bit because it's always funny to get the natural reaction with him about the Seattle Mariners, but we cannot get past what they have put up so far this season. However, away from T-Mobile Ballpark, has it been a safe harbor for them? And that is our first item we will tackle today on the Daily Diamond. I entitled it No Safe Harbor, as the Mariners will travel to Sacramento to take on the Athletics because of a couple of data points. Seattle is 1-4 in road series openers, and they begin a series against Sacramento tonight. However, we have been just auto betting most of the overs there in Sacramento because of the runs per game. 10.1 total runs per game scored on average for the Athletics. So the leans that I threw out, Grace, with the pitching matchup that we will have tonight, I believe it is Luis Severino getting the ball there for the Athletics against Bryce Miller for the Seattle Mariners. I did like the Athletics plus a half there for the first 5, kind of taking the bets in on both starting pitchers. Also, Cal Raleigh, the big dumpa, has been unbelievable all over the place, but particularly on the road, he's been a force to be reckoned with. So a lean for me there, 2+ total bases. Thoughts for you on this series for the Mariners and the A's?
So I thought that stat you mentioned about Seattle was interesting. 1-4 in road series openers. I was looking at their schedule, trying to find some type of pattern there. But I see them, in these losses, they're going from Detroit to San Francisco. They're going from Texas to Cincinnati. They're going from Cincinnati to Toronto, from Toronto to Boston, from LA to Texas. And typically when I'm looking to fade teams based on travel, it's based on a big shift in their hitting environment. But these cities and ballparks, I mean, when you're looking at the weather and the air density, it's really not a big drop off. And they're getting a day of rest in between these games too. So I don't know if that 1-4 record is just one of those things like, hey, maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe it's just bad luck. But I know you bet based on travel, so maybe you have more thoughts there. So I don't know. I actually can't find anything specific that tells me why they would have a losing record in those road series openers. But just looking at the pitching matchups here, Bryce Miller last week said that his back locked up on him pregame. He ended up throwing 5 shutout innings. So if that's how you're throwing when you're slightly injured, I mean, you go, kid. One thing that's concerning for me is that his walk rate is over 14% this year, which is already bad, but it's more than double his career average. He also has a high hard hit rate, so we might see some negative regression from him. Luis Severino, also some questions with him too. His strikeout rate, just over 18%, is a career low, and it has been low for the last 3 seasons after going anywhere from 28 to 36% from 2017 to 2022. So he's had a big drop off in his ability to get swings and misses. I actually think he should have some negative regression too on the 4-seamer. You look at the weighted on base average, it's 303, but the expected weighted on base average is 396, which shows that he's been getting a little lucky on that pitch. I think it could be because the velo is down half a mile an hour. So for me, I like your Athletics first 5 run line, but I think this is a game I'm actually staying off of.
Yeah, anxious to see where it is. Minus $1.15. The Mariners are a short favorite on the road. Total of 9. The odds makers not wanting to hang double digits there just yet. So we'll see if the offensive explosion continues. We would expect offense in the Bronx. And in our Cinco de Mayo theme here, Grace, I went with Bombas en la Casa. Bombs in the house. Padres and the Yankees beginning a showdown series in New York tonight. The Yankees lead Major League Baseball in homers at home. They have 36. Yes, Aaron Judge, a big reason why. However, the Padres pitching staff has allowed the second fewest, tied for that mark, second fewest homers allowed, 25 overall, home or away, in Major League Baseball. I did just go with the juggernaut himself, Aaron Judge, 2 or more total bases. Fernando Tatis Jr. on the road has been awesome in the leadoff spot. I did have him as a lean to score a run. Thoughts on this series? Not necessarily a potential World Series preview, but 2 teams that feel like they can go pretty deep in the postseason.
Definitely. Really excited for this one. And we have 2 great pitchers in this one, too. I love that you're targeting player props because I do think this total of 7.5 is right where it should be. We're actually getting a pitching boost in the weather. The temperature in New York City dropping 11 degrees, which means we're going to get more ball movement out of the pitcher's glove off the mound. And then if it's hit in the air, it's not going to travel as far. But Nick Pivetta, we're going to talk about him later in the show. He's just been having a stellar season. He could be due for some negative regression because his ERA is 1.78, but the expected ERA is 3.05. Even then, though, the 3.05 is still a great mark. And he has a crazy high strikeout upside. Carlos Rodon, he's actually looking pretty. I was a little bit worried about him for a while, but his underlying metrics are looking pretty good. You mentioned San Diego allowing the second fewest home run. I think that's just because, you know, they have a top 3 bullpen and then a great starting rotation. So I would I wouldn't bet the under unless we can get even odds on that one. But I like your player props there.
Total 7.5, both a minus $1.10 for the over and the under there. Carlos Rodon, the start for the Yankees. They are a minus $1.42 favorite. The Padres with Nick Pivetta plus $1.20 coming back. You mentioned the weather there in the Bronx. Well, the weather in Vegas, summer is going to be here to stay, and it is there in force there at Circa Las Vegas. How about you go all in on the ultimate getaway package, just $400. You get a 2-night stay at Circa, $100 dining credit, $100 beverage credit, your very own daybed at Stadium Swim. We all know, definitely Grace and I do, the party never stops there. She's been there in person. She knows what it is, so just ask her. She'll give you the lay of the land. $400 also includes your resort fees and your taxes. Limited time offer, valid for stays between May 26th and September 4th. Do not miss out on this. Lock in your all-in summer package now at circalasvegas.com. Okay, Grace, also one of my favorite things on Daily Diamond, we also got into the regular season win totals for May. Dave and I did. We both locked in the Cincinnati Reds at plus 6850 there at Circa. However, we do have a red alert for you Star Wars fans from yesterday. I know it was May the 4th be with you. Yesterday, we're on to the 5th today, but it's more the matchup tonight. Reds will travel to Atlanta to take on the Braves. They've been a scoring force, especially early in games. 3.5 runs per game in the first 5 this year. That is the most in Major League Baseball. However, Brady Singer, not good. 8.18 ERA in 2 games started against Atlanta. I do like runs early in this one, specifically for those reasons. So the first 5 total over was a lean for me. Also, Sean Murphy, check the numbers career against Brady Singer. Unbelievable. Take him 2 or more total bases. Those are my leans in this one.
I think so your stat about Cincinnati averaging the most runs in the first 5 makes a lot of sense. They are one of the best teams at hitting with runners in scoring position. However, I have to argue against that Brady Singer stat. An ERA of over 8 against the Braves. First of all, it's only 2 career starts. You look at the most recent one was last year in the playoffs. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, which is a pretty, standard. That's a solid start. So that bad number just comes from 2023 when he allowed 8 earned runs on 10 hits in 5 innings. Now, here's what's changed from between 2023 and 2025. The Royals got him to introduce new pitches into his arsenal. He had previously just been a 2-pitch sinker slider guy in his first 4 years in the majors. Worked for him in college, but 2 pitches is not going to get you by against the best hitters in the world. So he has been experimenting with a few other things. It looks like the cutter is working for him now. And right now he has a career high strikeout rate, over 26%. The whiff rate on his sinker has nearly doubled because it's moving less horizontally, more vertically. Obviously the cutter is going to help that as well. So I have a lot of belief in him. And then you look at his ERA, 3.24 is one of his best. And then the expected ERA, the FIP, the xFIP, they all match up with that. So the results we're seeing from him are real. And full disclosure, I will always be a Brady Singer fan because my first job ever was in Gainesville, Florida. He was on that Gators World Series team, and he was just electric. He had a moment that went viral. We have to go to a commercial break, but I'll tell you the story on the other side. But anytime I see him, I have to root for him.
Absolutely love it. Reds plus $1.24 on the money line. Braves minus 148. We'll talk a little bit more baseball and Scottie Scheffler's historic Byron Nelson performance next on VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
Halfway home on this Monday edition of VSiN By The Books. Jensen Lewis, Grace Remington in for Dave Ross today, and we get another helping of Grace tomorrow. So good to be back with you. And I know we share a kindred spirit when it comes to Brady Singer. I was just in Gainesville this past weekend, or at least a week ago, I should say, doing the Arkansas and Florida men's college game, and had a chance to talk to their head coach, Kevin O'Sullivan. Obviously, Brady Singer, University of Florida alum, but I know you've had the great fortune of the interactions and seeing Brady firsthand. I know you have a quality story on, shall we say, an emotional Brady Singer, to say the least.
Emotional is one way to put it. That's the polite way to put it. Yeah, my lasting impression of Brady Singer was a 2017 Super Regional game. Gainesville there's thunderstorms and rain showers every afternoon in Florida. And so I remember that day we went out to cover the game, and we already had a 6-hour rain delay in that series. They were playing Wake Forest, and so the big question leading into this game was, do you delay it for, we need Brady Singer to start this deciding game. Do you start him, or do you keep him later? And do we kind of mix up our pitching strategy here? Do we delay the game? Because we can't waste an arm. You can't wake up a pitch or mess up a pitcher's rhythm, right? So they decide to play the game. It gets to the third inning, and then they decide to delay, and they roll out the tarp. And if you haven't seen the video, you absolutely need to Google it, because Singer just loses his mind. And I knew he was a competitor, but to that point, I had never seen this fire come out of him. But he's just throwing every curse word in existence, every direction off the mound. It was truly a sight to behold. You feel for the guy, but it was quite entertaining. And some irony years later is Jonathan India is the guy consoling him in this moment. And of course, they were just trade partners between the Royals and Reds this past offseason. So funny how things shake out. But I will always be a Brady Singer fan because of that moment.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. Again, Brady Singer getting the start for the Reds tonight in Atlanta. They open a series. A.J. Smith-Shawver on the mound. Minus $1.48. Braves the favorite there after they went 4-3 yesterday against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball. A total of 8.5 as they get underway. Okay, last one for our Daily Diamond here. Grace, we go back to the friendly confines. The Giants and the Cubs. We mentioned the Padres and the Yankees, a showdown series starting tonight in the Bronx. It ends up also that we have one in the National League side as well. Giants were the best teams in baseball, or I guess one of the best surprises so far, and the Cubs one of the best teams in baseball. We yet again are looking at a total trend here. The Cubs 20-12-2 to the over. That is second best in Major League Baseball to the Miami Marlins. Guess what? The San Francisco Giants, 13-4-1 to the over as a road team. That also second in Major League Baseball to the Miami Marlins. So naturally, our leans for this game, for me, the full game over. Also, Wilmer Flores has been a force to be reckoned with away from Oracle Park there in San Francisco. He's got the most RBI on the team as they play road games. So I do like him for a lean to record an RBI. This is a night game in Chicago, 7:40 Eastern, first pitch. It will be Matthew Boyd and Landon Roop taking the mound for the Cubs and the Giants.
You know, I hate to do this on our first show together, Jensen, but I'm going to have to go against you on this one because I actually like the under 7.5 here. You look at the weather, both teams are getting a negative park shift in terms of hitting. The Cubs are moving from that temperature-controlled dome in Milwaukee where it's 72 degrees. The Giants are moving from San Francisco where it was 61 degrees. Tonight in Chicago, it's going to be 51 at first pitch with winds blowing in. So that drop in temperature, it's going to be a 20-degree drop in temperature for those Chicago hitters. That means the ball visually will be moving about an inch more off the mound. So they won't be seeing it as well. Going to make it a little bit more difficult for them to connect. But I kind of like these two pitchers too. Landon Roop, this is his first season as a full-time starter. Last year was his first full season in the majors, and he spent most of it in the bullpen. But I think he has some positive regression coming his way. His ERA is 5.10, but the expected ERA is 3.31. And he has a almost 26% strikeout rate, which is up from last year. His hard hit rate is low. The barrel rate is low. So I think his actual results should match up to those predictive metrics soon. And then Matthew Boyd, maybe we'll see a little bit of negative regression from him. He has a 2.70 ERA, but a 3.60 expected ERA. Still, that's not the worst number in the world. What stands out to me about him, though, is he's 34 years old, so no one expects you to be throwing harder the older you get, and yet the velo on his four-seamer is the fastest it's been in his career, 93.3 miles an hour. And then he's a lefty, and the Giants are a below-average offense against lefties. So all those things working together, I like the under in Chicago tonight.
Yeah, the betting splits actually, Grace, are in your favor, too. 28% of the bets, 61% of the handle at DraftKings on the under 7.5. Why do we bring up those betting splits? because right now, running a promo for you at VSiN.com to be a VSiN Pro subscriber. Normally, it's a $240 price tag. We've got you down to $199 when you sign up today. We'll throw in 2 extra months for free. 14 months of VSiN Pro access, again, for less than 50 cents a day when you use the promo code PRO. What all do you get in those 14 months? Well, the daily best bets from our VSiN hosts and guests, as you already got from Cody Deckard this morning in hour number 1, the exclusive splits that we love to reference here from both DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 live video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus all of our special edition betting guides. And again, it paid for itself if you subscribed over the weekend because you got our great handicappers for the Kentucky Derby. Again, head to VSiN.com/subscribe now. Use the promo code PRO to lock in 14 months of VSiN Pro for just $199. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. We had a history at the Kentucky Derby, but we also had history on the golf course, Grace, in a tournament that you and I probably won't soon forget just because of the shock value when you look at the final scores. I can't believe when I tuned in yesterday ahead of the airport, I'm like, Scottie's at what? He's at what?
Yeah.
So how about the history for Scottie Scheffler? Wins by 8 strokes. We've kind of seen that happen before. But a chance to tie or beat the largest margin of victory at the tournament. He does that joining Sam Snead in 1957. And oh, by the way, the tournament is named after Byron Nelson. Yeah, he tied him too. Won by 10 strokes, Byron Nelson did in 1944, minus 32. And now, again, just to think about 32 strokes under par in and of itself, it feels like multiple tournaments you got to put together. What an unbelievable performance as Scottie Scheffler gets in the winner's circle for the first time in 2025.
Yeah, wild. The typical win at that course is 23 to 26 under par. He finishes 31 under. It just feels like something only Scottie Scheffler can do. It's the largest margin of victory at this tournament since 1983, the third wire-to-wire win at this tourney. And I thought it was so cool, just this full circle moment for him. It's his hometown course, obviously, but they showed the picture of him as a 6-year-old with Byron Nelson on the broadcast. And then afterwards pointed out that last year he had skipped out on this tournament because his son Bennett was due. And this year he wins it and his little baby is there to watch it. And we saw that emotion from him afterward. He was trying to hold back the tears. So, a lot of people, kind of went into this tournament wondering he doesn't need to play this. You have a signature event and then a major coming up. A lot of the best golfers sat this one out. But if it didn't mean a lot to Scottie Scheffler, he wouldn't have played it. So I thought that was just a really cool moment for him. Being a golf bettor, strokes gained data is what I use a lot. So he gained 23.7 strokes in this tournament. That is the 6th best strokes gained total on any PGA Tour event since 2000. And you look at the 5 guys who are above him, there's Tiger Woods, there's Phil Mickelson twice, so rare company. Another thing that stood out to me was how well he played with his irons. Of 72 holes, he hit 18 within 10 feet of the pin on his approach shots. So that is a full round of golf. He was hitting it within 10 feet of the pin on a pro, and then birdieing those. So when a guy's playing like that, I just don't know how you beat him. And it was kind of a bummer for Eric Van Rooyen because he actually beat Scottie on the weekend. He outscored him in the final 2 rounds. And I thought it was especially impressive because when you're paired up with a guy like that, you can be intimidated by the aura. The crowd was definitely pro Scottie, and yet EVR didn't back down. So good things for him ahead. But just a really exciting weekend for Scottie.
Yeah, no doubt. So he wins it in historic fashion, and now we will head into the Truist Championship. Rory McIlroy, the early favorite at 4-1 for that tournament. Hey, is it news or noise? We get Grace's thoughts on Big Game James, or is he no longer? I think the numbers will back that up. Plus, so much more to dive into previewing the NHL and the NBA coming up later tonight. More VSiN by the books when we come back.
tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
VSiN By The Books here on a Monday. A happy Cinco de Mayo to all those that celebrate. Jensen Lewis alongside Grace Remington in for Dave Ross today and tomorrow. And it is always great to baptize our friends and family here on the network to another great segment we always love to do here day in and day out. And Grace, that'll be where I ask you, is this news or is this noise?
Is it news
Corleone is a man who insists on hearing bad news immediately.
or just noise?
Are you going to act like this is news? Just noise. This is noise.
Let's separate the impactful from the insignificant with one simple question. News or noise?
All right, we always look to certain athletes in closeout scenarios, heck, even into game sevens, where like this guy or this gal is going to rise to the occasion, and that's someone that we can put our hard-earned money on. Grace, do we have a scenario now developing where we can no longer call James Harden big game James? It seems in the big moments, at least the last five, when facing elimination, James Harden has disappeared. You go all the way back to 2022, Game 6 against Miami, just 11 points. 2023, Game 7 against Boston, 9 points. 2024, 16 against Dallas. And then 2025, 2 opportunities to close out the Nuggets, 28 points and 7 points. So he actually showed up in Game 6, but not so in Game 7. Grace, I ask you, is this news or noise that we can no longer have James Harden be called Big Game James in these closeout games?
I think it's news. It's time to light the candle for Harden in the postseason. He was minus 29 in the game this weekend. Granted, there's plenty of blame to go around. He was benched along with Kawhi for the young players to get some more experience. But yeah, you just listed out all those numbers with a guy, you know, for his pedigree and being as paid as much as he is, you would expect him to show up and show out. And he seems to kind of run away from the big moments at this point. And granted, like, I don't think you can have a decent sample size for these types of arguments or measurements, but 5 games, like 5 opportunities of Game 6 or Game 7 in the last 3 years does feel like a lot to me. It feels like enough for us to say, yeah, he's not the guy we thought he was.
Clippers eliminated by the Nuggets. They will get underway Game 1 against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder now 9.5-point favorites up at DraftKings, 225.5. The total for that series beginning later tonight. We also have our great friend here at the network, Scott Seidenberg, who, shall we say, Grace, was going one way against James Harden, decided to go against it here in this series. Let's hear from Scott reacting to putting hard-earned money there on the Clippers and James Harden.
James Harden just 7 points on 2 of 8 shooting. This is a Game 7. A Game 7. And James Harden took 8 shots. I've said this years and years ago. And I've been called a hater for many, many, many years. Okay? And it's because I always bet against James Harden. And I feel like I'm an idiot for taking the Clippers in this series because I should have stuck to my guns on betting against James Harden all the time.
Scott Seidenberg from Live Bet Saturday. Just you can just feel the angst,
Dude.
Grace, from him. It's like, I can't believe I did this to myself.
Scott, you got to stick to your process. You were ahead of everyone. Don't doubt yourself. It was working. I have to give a shout out to Scott because I saw in the VSiN Daily newsletter this morning, he was live on air when the Jets tied the game last night, and his reaction was priceless. I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into a meme on betting Twitter. So good on you, Scott. What tough weekend for Scott.
Yeah, no question about it. So, again, no more big game James, I think, unless he finds a way to turn this thing around. Speaking of turning it around, it is one of the weird idiosyncrasies, Grace, of baseball where we are so statistically heavy day in and day out. But is this now news or noise to you? The New York Mets have lost game number 34 on their schedule in 16 straight seasons. First of all, who's going back and looking through the minutia in the haystack there of like, oh, yeah, game 34. Let's circle that. 16 straight years. Do we all make a note to look for game 34 next year, regardless of opponent? News or noise now that this has happened for over a decade and a half?
I would have said noise because something this obscure, I'm just like, what, how? But the fact that it's 16 straight seasons, why the heck not? We got 162 games to make it up. Sure, set the calendar alert. I just need to know, how did anyone find this stat? Is producer Brandon secretly a Mets fan and he's like on obscure Mets Twitter and this is how who is tracking these things? And now I want to know, does every team have a stat like this? Like, oh, this team loses game 71 because I need to know. I need to know these things.
I feel like it was either the Rays or actually, ironically, Grace, the Mets. It was a tax day, I think, that they have lost for like 11 or 12 years straight. That is pinging somewhere deep in the memory bank. But you're right. It is, again, it's the uniqueness of our sport because Florida, of so many games that we play. Yeah, it's crazy to even think that's something that happens.
They're celebrating no income tax on tax day, and so they're heading into the ballpark a little too light.
Yeah, no question about that. That's for sure. All right, so that's news and noise for today. Hey, if you are just joining us, a recap of yesterday's action. The NHL had a Game 7. The Jets somehow in double overtime find a way to get past the Blues. They will now move on to round 2. That gets them a date. They get to stay at home there. The Miracle at Manitoba allows them to move on. They will play the Dallas Stars, who got past the Colorado Avalanche a couple of days ago in their very own Game 7. Tonight, we do get one round 2 matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Grace, I know top-line thoughts for you. Very intriguing matchup here against two behemoths here in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I kind of just want to know at what point does this postseason wear and tear catch up to the Panthers, because they have played more hockey than anyone in the last 3 years, going to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals and then just playing a physical game against Tampa. I know it was only a 5-game series, but the Florida teams do not like each other. So there's always a few more bumps and bruises that show up that don't show up on the box score in that one. So do we see any, just wear and tear from them? I think maybe it's starting to get to Sergei Bobrovsky because his save percentage has dropped to 90.1%. The more alarming number from him is his high danger save percentage has dipped below league average. And then home ice, I think, is important here because Florida had a 20-19-2 record in away games with a -4 differential compared to a +27 goal differential on home ice. So it would bode well for the Maple Leafs having the advantage in this series. And then if you do think that they will win the game tonight, I know the Panthers are the favorite here, but the teams that have won the first game of a series go on to win the whole series 68% of the time. So if you want to back the Leafs, then that home ice stat, or I guess fade the Panthers and their away ice stat, you could go ahead and double down. Bet the Leafs to win game 1 and the series at +230, I believe.
Yeah, see the series price right there. Florida -$1.70 favorite. Toronto the comeback +$1. +$1.45. For me, VSiN Pro subscribers, I locked in the Panthers -1.5 on the puck line +205. For whatever reason, Florida has defied all expectations just in the Lightning series. You thought one way, they went exactly the opposite. So the Maple Leafs expending a little bit of emotion and resources to try and get past Ottawa. I do like Florida on the road at a very nice plus price here. Also, a Game 7 in the NBA. If you're just joining us last night, the Warriors do get past the Rockets. That now sets up a matchup in the second round for them against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They will head out on the road, and the round 2 matchups are set through the NBA. Pacers getting past the Cavaliers in game one as well. But that Warriors and Timberwolves game will get underway tomorrow night. Timberwolves a 6.5-point favorite in game one, minus $1.75 on the series price. Also, the Warriors plus $1.50 on the comeback will be a very intriguing one. I know many of our experts, Grace, here at the channel, including JVT, were one that said circle the Timberwolves. They could be a force to be reckoned with. And they get past the Lakers in 5 in a very convincing series win. A guy who will convince us one way or the other in these NBA postseason matchups, that is the great king of Connecticut, Will Hill, will join us next on VSiN By The Books.